started. All right. Hi, everyone. I am Andrea. I am the events catalyst for the Immersive series and your host for today's gathering, and I'm tuning in from Bucharest, Romania. I want to warmly welcome you to our gathering and sweetly introduce our guest for today. Behavioral scientist, educational strategist, passionate about uncovering the interplay between emotion and action, designing transformative learning experiences that foster meaningful growth for individuals and organizations. And that's Matthew. And thank you for being here. And over to you.
It's such a lovely introduction, Andrea. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to meet you all. Those of you who've got your cameras on, thank you so much. It's so nice to see faces, and even though, we're virtually connecting, it's so nice to actually see your faces and the smiles and the nodding heads. It makes a difference. Those of you who are joining us without cameras, I'll ask kindly if you can join us with a camera. It's always better to see your faces. Otherwise, it's not a problem. It's great to have you here. Before we begin, it's Wednesday, it's the middle of the week. I know that everybody's realities look a little bit different. I would love to know, just in one word, how is your mood this afternoon? How do you feel? In one word, if you could put it in the chat, in one word, how do you feel this afternoon? I'm really curious. Maybe you're kind of coming to Wednesday thinking like, yeah, okay, I'm feeling pretty good. Maybe you're like, oh, it's Wednesday and I can't wait for the weekend. Pressured, overwhelming, insightful, maybe a bit mixed, invigorated, done. Serena, I'm sure some of us can relate to this. It's only Wednesday, right? I'm already done. Yeah. I love it. Just the emoji, a big yawn, relatable, right? Motivated. All right, I love it. I love it. So we got a real mix. Um, and I have another question. Exhausted. Right. I'm sure we've all felt in that state at some point. I'm myself am feeling a little tired if I'm being honest. And it's nice to share that, right? And it's nice to see what we can do, even in this state. Feeling good, feeling decisive. I love it. I really love it. Um, I have another question, if you don't mind, which is you've joined this session for a reason, right? You've seen that the session promoted somewhere, stress without distress is the tagline. And I'm really curious, what would be on your wish list for today's session? What would you hope to leave with today? Maybe just in a couple of words or a sentence, what would you actually hope to get out of this session? If it could be anything. Imagine I was Santa Claus. I know the beard's the wrong color, right? But if I was Santa Claus, what would be on your Christmas list today? Stress without distress. What do we actually mean with that? Energy management techniques. Okay. Better understanding of stress, ways to channel it. I love it. I love it. Reframe my stress. Okay. You've come to the right place. Ways to cope, new perspective. All right. Okay. I have a question, and I'm actually going to start a whiteboard because I'd love to have you guys participate. So, uh, should all be able to see the whiteboard? Can you just see like a straight line? Everyone can see a line? Okay, super. I would love to know, how stressed are you today from a one to a five? Where a one is, I am practically asleep. And a five is, I'm exploding. And a three is maybe the sweet spot. A three, a four, a 3.5, a two, a two, a two, a three, a 3.5. Katharina's looking for some easy techniques to regulate stress. Sarah's at a four. Ramia's at a five. Okay, good mix. It's nice that some of us coming in, you know, on a nice Wednesday evening, and it's like I feel maybe a bit relaxed at a two, and that's fantastic. Those of you who answered something more than three, so four or five, or just a general question to all of us, Have you ever had this feeling of being stressed and feeling stressed out about feeling stressed? Yeah, you're like, oh my God, I'm so stressed. And it's like, oh no, I'm stressed. Stress is the worst thing in the world, right? Every day. Okay, right. I'm glad that I'm not the only one. Uh, and that's interesting, right? Because there's a lot of media around stress. There's a lot of tropes around stress. There's a lot of ideas around stress that circulate all the time. And particularly, I'm sure we've seen some of these ideas that stress is a really, really bad thing. Right? Um, Before we talk about that, I would love to actually just start with a game. I'd love to do a little experiment and play a little game. Would you be willing to play a game with me? Yeah? Okay. All right. You may have seen this experiment before. You do not need to unmute yourself. You do not need to even have your cameras on, although it is lovely to see your faces. Right. I'm going to share a presentation with you for something called the Stroop effect. And you're going to see a series of words. And it says the Stroop effect test. Yeah? Okay. You're going to see a series of words. I want you to just name the color. It's best if you can say it out loud, but I understand that some of us may be in an environment where that's a bit strange. Like if you're joining us from a coffee shop and suddenly this you're just saying a load of colors. I understand that maybe you want to say it in your head, but it works a little bit better if you say it out loud. And then I'm going to ask for you to honestly keep a record of every time you make a mistake. Okay? Following the instructions? Okay. Are we ready? We're going to start slow and we'll get a little faster. Okay. Okay. So I would say red, blue, yeah, yellow, that's round one. How many mistakes did you make? Be honest. Zero, 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 two, one, zero, zero, three. So a mix, right? Not loads of mistakes. But we get an idea. How difficult was that? Not that difficult, extremely difficult, somewhere in the middle. Pretty easy, pretty not too bad, not difficult, not too much, easy. All right, love it, love it. Okay, are we ready for round two? Because it's going to get more difficult. Okay, round two is coming. The color, not the word. That's round two already. How many mistakes did we make? One, zero, three. Okay, I think some of us improved actually from the first to the second round. Okay, round three, same idea. I want you to say the color, not the word, but there's an extra challenge. I also want you to count the number of occurrences of the letter E. So the color, not the word, and I want you to count the number of occurrences of the letter E. How many times do you see the letter E?
In all the
Atisha, you
slides
have a
together.
question. In all
In
the
all the
slides that you're about to see, so I want to see the color, not the word, but how many times does the letter E show up? Serena, perfect. We're getting the point of this, right? Are we ready? Are we ready? Okay, round three, let's go. Maria, you made it to the end. Okay, firstly, can we all give ourselves a round of applause, a mic-friendly round of applause? I would love to know how many mistakes you made. Jessica says very hard. Maria at some point said, "Oh God, please stop," which I'm sure that some of us could relate to. Yeah. 18 E's, 19 E's, 19 E's. How many mistakes did you make? It got chaotic. It certainly did. I have no idea. None mistakes. One mistake, three mistakes. How did we find that final round? My anxiety had anxiety. I love it. Right. Okay. Um, who who felt stressed by that last? Just show of hands. Who felt stressed by that last one? I felt a little bit stressed sharing it with you. Overwhelmed. Who felt stressed about feeling stressed? My guess would be maybe not many of us. There's a really shocking statistic that I'd love to share with you before we go any further. And when I first came across this statistic, it shocked me as well. Um, and the research suggests that people who report being chronically stressed are on average 47% more likely to die young. Oof, right? That's a heavy statistic. 47% more likely to die young. But there's a second bit, and the second bit is missed a lot of the time. And the second bit says this: only if you believe that chronic stress has negative health consequences. So it's not the stress itself that causes people to die young, but it's the belief that that stress is a bad thing, which is, for me, was this mind blowing moment. Right. Okay, so stress itself is not actually necessarily directly responsible for these negative health outcomes. It's not the stress itself that's actually really damaging. What is really damaging is this feeling that that stress is a terrible thing for me. It's the feeling that that stress is actually causing me some issues in my life. Okay, well, to me, that indicates this feeling of maybe we need to actually radically review our relationship with stress. Maybe we need to radically review how we even talk about stress, the language that we use around it. What if stress is actually a good thing? What even is stress? And so I'm going to pose that question, right? Maybe you want to unmute and share something. If you do want to unmute, I'm going to ask you please to click the raise hand just so that we can have some order, but I'd also love you to answer in the chat. if something comes to mind. What is stress? What are we actually talking about here? What is stress in the first place? No right or wrong answers. I just want to see what people already have in their heads about stress. What is stress? If it's comfortable for you to unmute and share something, please do. If you feel more comfortable writing something in the chat. I don't know. That's for you. I came here to learn this from you. Right? Higher cortisol level for a longer period of time. Thank you, Martina. So, anything else we know about stress? Dynamic pressure, having to be on high alert for an extended period of time. Sure. Feeling too much going on around, you can't process. Yeah. Having lots of thoughts about something, not able to stop those thoughts. Right. I see a lot of stuff that's the consequence of stress, tunnel vision, lack of control of your situation. I see a lot of stuff that's a kind of consequence of stress, and I see a lot of stuff that's a cause of stress, but maybe not so much about what stress actually is. And perhaps I can talk about that for a little brief moment. Andrea mentioned that my background is in behavioral science and neuroscience. I'd love to share some insights from that. But I think one of the best, Serena's mentioned natural response. Ramya said stress perhaps is telling us to take rest. I actually would love to share this perspective on stress that I used to have this idea that stress is like a little gremlin in my brain and he's kind of pulling his hair out. He's like, you got all this stuff to do. Right. And I actually would love to reframe stress more as a accountant of the body. Sounds weird. But every day our body is has a budget of energy, the energy that we're putting into our body. And that budget, but that energy budget has to be allocated to the different parts of our body, our different organs, the muscles, the organs, regenerating cells, the brain and its everyday functioning. And the hormones that are associated with stress, adrenaline and cortisol, essentially are telling the body to change its budget, change where it's sending that energy. And it comes from this survival system. I'm walking through the jungle and I see a tiger. Where do I need energy in that moment? What's going to be my response to that tiger? Legs, Martina. Right. Run, Atusha says. Yeah, absolutely. I want energy in my legs. I want energy in my muscles. My fight or flight response is activated. I have to admit, I'm probably not in team fight the tiger. I'm probably in team run away from the tiger, right? But I want that energy in my muscles so that I can respond accordingly. But that energy doesn't just get sent to my muscles, it also gets sent to my brain because in this moment I have to make some quick decisions and I have to make those decisions really, really well. I don't have time as I'm running away from the tiger to stop and think, which path am I going to take here? Am I going to take the path up the mountain or am I going to take the path through the forest? Well, the mountain, it's a bit steep and, it's a bit rocky and maybe I'll fall over and sprain my ankle. But the woods, it's kind of easy to get lost and maybe I'm eaten. At this point, I'm already eaten by the tiger. I don't have that time. So I also need to be making quick decisions. So the immediate kind of response of stress is this diversion of energy to the muscles and to the brain. Where do we take that energy from? Because I only have a limited amount of energy in my body. I can't just magically make more energy out of nowhere. Well, a simple answer. Have you ever been to an interview or had a presentation with an important client and felt your mouth get dry? Oh God, my mouth feels so dry right now. I wish I had a glass of water. Right? Why do our mouths get dry when we're in these moments of stress? I don't need to be producing saliva right now. I don't need, it costs me energy to digest my food. I need to send that energy somewhere useful. I need every little drop of energy that I can get, or else I'm in trouble. I need that energy in my legs, as Martina said. I need that energy so that I can run away. So our body is diverting energy to the places that we need, and this idea that that energy is being diverted to our brain actually has some amazing consequences. So I'd love to share my little whiteboard again, and we're going to do a couple of graphs today. I'm secretly a big fan of graphs, um, and you'll have to bear in mind with me whilst I move this to the right screen, please. Okay, can everyone see my screen? And my little mouse moving around. Okay. Uh, on the bottom we have stress, and on the right we have performance. And we see this curve, right? When I'm not very stressed, I don't really perform very well. Right? I may be sleepy here. Has anyone had that feeling of getting home from work? It's been a long day at work. You sit down on the sofa, you stick Netflix on, and suddenly you remember you were supposed to take the trash out. Oh, am I taking the trash out in this moment? Probably not, right? Because I'm not stressed about it. I don't have that impulse, that motivation to do something. Similarly, if I have too much stress, if I'm in excess stress, what happens? I start to freak out, right? And maybe I get exhausted eventually, right? I feel the pressure, I feel the demand, I feel the burnout. Maybe I'm tense. I spent too much time in this place. That excess stress is not great, right? And what happens to my performance on a task? Well, we saw hopefully in the exercise with the words, right? When the words are too easy, people were still making mistakes in the first round. The words matched the colors, but people still made mistakes. Why? Well, it's too easy. I'm not invested. I'm not engaged. I'm not stressed about this thing. I'm feeling a bit sleepy. Have you ever made a mistake because you're just not paying so much attention? I'm not invested in this task, and then I end up making mistakes. Right? So it's actually this middle zone that we're aiming for. This is a great place to be. It's the sweet spot. But what's crazy is I'm stressed here. I have to be stressed to be in this zone. Have to be stressed to be there. Sorry, I'm moving you between screens because I'm not entirely. Zoom is behaving in unexpected ways, so I'm kind of over here and I'm back here. Um, it's crazy, right? That I want to be stressed. I actually need to be stressed in order to do my best work. I need to be stressed. It's counterintuitive, I think. It's counterproductive. It's a way of thinking about stress that is, quite frankly, a bit alien. And it's a bit alien to me. And I want to humanize myself for a second and say that this is something that I'm still trying to figure out and process myself. Yesterday, I did a full training offsite. I was out the house from 7 and I got home at 8:30 and was with a client all day. This morning, I had a 2.5 hour training session. I had an hour for lunch, and then I had a 2.5 hours training session in the afternoon. And now I'm here with you guys. Today, I feel stressed, right? I feel the stress and I feel it in my body, and I recognize that I'm in this stressful place. I have water on hand because I recognize my mouth going dry from the pressure of presenting these ideas to an audience of people I've never met before. It is stressful. I feel stressed. And I'm constantly trying to develop this voice in the back of my mind that says, good, actually, that's appropriate. That makes sense. That's a perfectly honest and normal way to be, and it's an appropriate response for the situation right now. Does that make sense? And so I've been thinking about this quite a lot, and I've been thinking about how can we use those ideas to really uh, start to understand where am I? Because I know there's times as well when I feel stressed and it's not appropriate. I know there's times when stress does actually cause problems in my life. So how do I differentiate? How do I understand the difference between this kind of like really positive stress where I'm appropriately stressed and this inappropriate stress, I'd love to share a little tool with you, and then I'd love to have a little discussion around that tool kind of between us, if that's okay. So I'm going to get the whiteboard again. Again, forgive me because you're not where I expected you to be, and I don't know how to get you. So I'm looking over here, and I know you're over there, but let's see what we can do. Uh, okay, here we go. Can everyone see a cross on the screen? Super. Thank you so much. So, uh, on this horizontal axis, I want to think about our demands. So, over here, we would have high demands because the demands change on us day to day. Right? What do I mean by a day of high demands? Maybe it's the first Monday back at work after you've been on vacation for 2 weeks. Right? There's probably a lot of demands being made of you, lots of emails to answer, lots of people who want your attention, lots of meetings, for example, or maybe you're just facing demands of life and the pressures of life. We also can be in a state of low demand, and this would be think of like a Sunday morning. You wake up, you've not really got anything to do. It's one of those rare days where I've just not got stuff to do. I can chill out, right? Does that make sense? Um, So we have this demand axis, and then we have how energized our body is, how activated our body is. So I go from the state of high energy, which might look like what might high energy look like when you're in a very highly activated state? How would I recognize that myself? What would I feel in my body? This is a question. How would I know that I'm in like my most activated state, my most energized state? What would that look like? What would that feel like? Restless, maybe? Yeah, for sure, Sarah. Anything else? What might I notice in my body in terms of how my body's maybe my ability to focus is changing? What about my heart rate, my blood pressure? I want you to think of the last time you felt that your body was really, really activated. Maybe you were doing sport, maybe you were in the gym, maybe you were out for a run, maybe you were having a really intense argument with someone. How did that feel in your body? What's going on there in that moment? That's what I mean when I say high energy. And the low energy, well, think you just woke up in the morning, on that Sunday morning. You're relaxed, you're at ease, you're at peace. And that gives us a couple of different places. Have high energy and high demands. What's going on here? This is performance. I have lots of demands being made of me, and my body is activating, and my brain is activating. I'm in a state of high energy to respond to it. That's a great place to be. I'm performing. If I'm going to go and play a tennis match, for example, this is physically demanding, and I want my body to be activated to respond to it. Similarly, if I'm in a state of low demand and I'm in a low energy state in response, that's great. I want to be there, right? That's rest and digest. This is a lovely place to be. So we end up with this healthy stress response from high demands, high energy, to low demands, low energy. Does that make sense? So you're all following me? Are you with me? Can I see some nodding heads? So I realize I'm talking a little bit here. Does that make sense? This is our kind of healthy stress response from when I need that energy, when I need to be in a state of activation because of the demands of my environment. I'm there. I have that high activation. When I'm in a state of low demand, I don't have anything to do. I don't have that pressure. I'm in this state of rest and digest. That is what we mean when we talk about a healthy stress response. But what about this? I'm in a state of low demands. I don't have lots on my plate. I don't have lots of things that I need to do, but I'm still in this state of high activation. I have this kind of restless energy because I have all this energy. but I don't know where to put that energy. And I think anxiety in general is very often being in this state. I'm in this state of nervous activation. I have all this restless energy. I've got all this stuff going on, but actually, I don't have the demands. I'm not facing any real physical demands in front of me. So my body is firing and activating, but there's nothing for it to meet. So this is danger zone number one. Danger zone number two is here. And I think this is probably the most dangerous one, where it's like I have real demands in my environment. I have real things that I have to meet. Maybe it's deadlines to meet. Maybe it's meetings that I've got to make. Maybe it's my responsibilities, like paying my car insurance or looking after my kids, but I don't have the energy to meet it. Right. And I think this is probably what we commonly refer to as burnout. I have those demands in my environment, but I can't make them. And normally that happens because whenever I'm in this state of high activation, high energy, I am burning energy. I am burning the energy that's in my body and I'm using it up. And if I don't spend time in this rest and digest space, then I'm going to end up in trouble. I'm going to end up in trouble because I'm not going to be able to activate to meet those demands. Does that make sense? Okay. What I would really love to do is something that I don't want to do is sit here and preach, because I think that actually the what helps us move out of those danger zones into the healthy stress response is something that's really quite personal and quite individual. But what I'd love to do is for us to have the opportunity to share those with each other. So in a second, I'm going to ask Andrea to make some breakout rooms. I think if we could have Andrea maybe like four people or so to a room, that would be fantastic. Um,
Four people?
and
That four
four
people?
people, yeah. And I'd love for us to just take maybe, let's say, 5 minutes to have this discussion. If I'm in this restless energy place or I'm in this burnout zone, how do I move myself back into this healthy stress response? What works for you? When you notice that I've got this restless energy, how do I use that and get myself back into that healthy stress response? Are there any questions before we begin? Okay. And then I'd love when we come back to the main room if we would be able to share some of our ideas with the main group.
We have
Um,
we have three rooms. Just one has four people. The other ones have three because that's the best we can do. I'll open up the rooms now.
Perfect. You may see my face in those rooms, but I'll just be popping up to say hi. And if I leave without saying anything, it's just because I don't want to interrupt your discussion.
We'll
Wait for
have
everyone to pop back from the rooms.
yeah, we still have some people in the room. That's a good sign that they're staying until the end. Mm.
It is a good sign. I always feel so rude closing breakout rooms because I just
Yeah.
think about if this was the way in real life, can you imagine you're in a meeting at work in the office and someone just grabs you by the back of the wheelie chair and pulls you into another room? Like, we're done with this meeting. We want you in here. Hello, welcome back. Welcome back, Maria. Welcome back, Magdalena. Welcome back, Katrina, Isabella. Welcome back, Popa. Lovely to see your face. Okay. I'm glad we extended that. I hope that felt appropriate to extend those conversations. I was kind of jumping through the rooms and listening a little bit to the conversations that were happening, and they sounded really a little intense, but in a good way, and like actually quite deep, which was lovely for me to hear jumping through. I'm wondering, in answering this question of like, how do we move out of these danger zones when I have this kind of restless energy? I have too much energy and not so many demands, or maybe this kind of burnout zone where I have lots of demands, but I can't match it with my energy. Did anything come up that surprised you in terms of how we can move out of those danger zones. And I encourage you, if it feels comfortable, to unmute and say something, that would be fantastic. If you feel like you want to write something in a chat, that would also be lovely. I'm just really curious what kind of came out of that for you guys.
Our group was talking a lot about burnout, and
Mm-hmm.
especially if your work environment does not encourage you to take breaks or kind of puts too much demands on you without allowing you time for rest, that it can be really, really hard to on your own move into that high performance state. And
Mm,
uh, what it really comes down to is you need to be able to know your energy levels, and you need to be able to set those boundaries and take those breaks. And I know for two of us, we both quit our jobs because there was at that point there was nothing we could do. So we recognized that like we can't maintain this burnout, and we
mm,
ended up quitting our jobs and moving into a
mm.
different environment.
I thank you so much for sharing that, Sarah. And it's such a nice and important framing. And actually, this is kind of the work that I do outside of these kind of sessions, working with businesses to try and humanize the way that we work with people. Because actually, we find that when we treat people like human beings, we allow them the flexibility to look after their own energy levels, to actually look after themselves, then that's what enables better performance. I think we have some kind of problems, or certainly I've encountered businesses that have issues with treating people like machines and kind of expecting machine-like results out of people. I'm going to work you regardless of your need for breaks or your need for energy or you need to manage that and just keep working, 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 working. But it's unrealistic in terms of how our bodies work. And I think the businesses that do have those mentalities will eventually sort of realize the problems of working in that way, especially if employees are quitting over the work environment that exists there. Thank you for sharing. Anything else that jumped out for anyone as particularly salient? Atisha?
um, I just wanted to add what Sarah said, that it starts very subtle in the job. Like it doesn't start directly that no, you can't take a
Mm,
break, or no, you can't do this or that. It starts like if you are taking a break, or if you are trying to regulate yourself, maybe you are overwhelmed or something like that, then you are
mm,
made feel that you're not performing enough, or you're not good enough, and then slowly and gradually it seeps in, and you start looking yourself as as the problem, and
mm,
then slowly and gradually it becomes so big that you do not realize that whether you are in the anxiety zone or you are in a burnout zone. It feels the
mm.
same,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
the the sense is neutralized slowly, gradually, every day, to a point wherein you feel like that's how it is.
That's such an important point, and actually brings me so nicely to the next point that I want to make, which is about those demands, right? Because the map that I showed you was about real demands. If I'm highly activated and I have high demands and those demands are real, that's appropriate. But actually, and this is the unique quirk of being human versus being another animal, we don't respond to purely environmental demands. We respond to perceived demands. And so often, what we're not battling is the real demands that we're under. What we're battling is our own perception of those demands. Right? That working with that is completely beyond the scope of this session, right? And I would love to do that. And that I think is a very personal journey that we go on, understanding what demands am I creating for myself and how am I creating them? What demands that I'm facing are real versus my own, maybe I have to do this task and the task is straightforward. Maybe I have very high standards of myself, and as a result, I see the demands of that task being so much more than they actually are in reality, but that's my perception. And if I perceive it that way, then it is real. So that's the quirk, is that we have these demands are not necessarily the real demands that we face, but our perceptions of them. And so partly managing where we are on that stress map is understanding some of the questions we can ask ourselves. How activated am I right now? Where is my energy right now? What demands am I under? Right? Having this sense of feeling, I feel stressed, right? That's the trigger of asking these questions. I feel stressed. What's an appropriate response to that is, okay, so what are the real demands that I face right now? What are the perceived demands? Are they real? Are they not? Am I appropriately activated in this moment, or am I not? Last two little tidbits that I'd love to share before we wrap up for today. The first one is this. For the longest time, scientists said the best thing you can do about stress and dealing with these stress hormones in your body, the adrenaline, the cortisol, is to exercise, because my body's rerouting my energy budget to the muscles. And the only way I can deal with that is by using those muscles, and that will lower the amount of stress hormones in your body. And yes, that is a fact, and you will help relieving the amount of stress hormones in your body by exercising appropriately. That is true. But I want you to imagine this scenario. I see the tiger in the jungle and I run away from the tiger, and it's chasing me and I'm running and it's chasing me and I'm running, and I finally figure, oh, I think I've escaped it. I think I've escaped the tiger. I've used the energy, but do I feel relaxed? Hell no. No, I don't feel relaxed. God, no. I've just been chased by a tiger, right? So even though I have maybe the physical relaxation of like I've got away from the tiger, what I don't have is a sense of I'm safe, I'm secure. And what the scientific literature is starting to show and starting to understand about stress is that when is the moment where I actually feel okay? When is the moment where I actually match not just the physiological de-stress of having used my muscles, but the psychological de-stress? It's when we're back with the tribe. It's when we're back with the group. It's when we share authentically who we are. I finally get back to the tribe and I go, oh my God, I'm safe, right? I've got these guys and they've got my back. It's a breakout room in a Zoom session with random strangers where we get to share our stress, and they say, hey, this thing is stressing me out. And another person goes, yeah, it's stressing me out too. And we go, right, I'm a human, and humans get stressed about stuff, and we feel that connection. And actually, it changes our relationship to stress. Last little bit, last thing, and then I promise we're gonna finish exactly on time. I'd love to do a breathing exercise with you. Breathing exercises are wonderful. Meditation, mindfulness, yoga, it's all wonderful. I find that I suck at sticking to anything. But this breathing technique, what I like about it is that it takes a minute to have a genuine change in your physiology, a genuine change in how your nervous system is working. So if you bear with me and try it out and see if it works for you, I use it all the time. I used it to quit smoking. I use it before every session that I run. I use it before meeting with business clients. It's something that takes 30 seconds to a minute, and there's a noticeable change. And the good news is you've all done it before without realizing. So I want you to think about the last time you had a really good cry. For me, it was watching Lord of the Rings at Christmas, and it's that final scene of the final movie where, you kneel to no man, and I'm subbing. And actually, it's that inhale of air, that pattern of breathing activates our parasympathetic nervous system. It drops our blood pressure, it drops our heart rate, and sends this signal of, I'm all right. The last time you had a really good cry and you're sobbing, and then, ooh, you get this kind of wash of like, and I can relax and I can calm down and I can let go of all that emotional stress that I'm holding on to. And the good news is you can do that yourself without having to cry. I don't expect anyone to cry today. At least I hope not, right? But we can emulate that with a technique called a physiological sigh. And I'll walk you through it, I'll explain it, then I'll demonstrate it, and then we can have a go together. This is not a brag, this is not a flex, but it's just a disclaimer. I have big lungs, and I've seen people try and follow along with me and start going blue in the face. So please just listen to your body, listen to your own lung volume, right? And don't try and keep up, just follow your own rhythm. The idea is simple. I want to breathe in through my nose until I feel that my lungs are as full as they can be. I really want to feel like I can't get any more air in. I am full. And at that point, I want to give this extra sharp inhale, this extra, like a top up. Imagine the air pockets in your lungs just puffing up. And then I want to sigh that out through the mouth. So what does that look like? I breathe in through my nose. My lungs are full. I can't get any more air in. And then I breathe it out. Does that make sense? Helps if you sat up. If you're yawning, that means it's working, right? Because the yawning is my body saying, okay, I'm relaxed. So if you're willing to give it a try, don't follow my pace. Just follow the idea. When your lungs are full, extra top up, and then out. So we breathe in through the nose. So the lungs are full. Extra inhale, and then out. And exhale through the mouth. For me, the first place I feel it is in my shoulders. Maybe it's slightly different for you. What I love about this is it's not 8 minutes going and lying down in a dark room. It doesn't require having a really quiet environment where I can focus and still my mind. I can be walking to a meeting and I can be doing this. I can be sat in the waiting room for a Zoom call and I can do this breathing technique and I feel a genuine change in my body and I feel a genuine change in my blood pressure. And it takes 3 or 4 cycles and I'm good to go. I'm golden. So that would be the last little thing that I would share with you today. We're ready to wrap up. It's 19:01 here in Spain, and that's when the session was supposed to finish at 7. Before you go, I would have a very small request to make of you. We've thrown lots of stuff out today, thrown lots of different concepts, lots of ideas. I'd love to know for you personally, what is the thing that you found the most valuable? Is there anything that would stick with you from today? And if you feel cool to unmute yourself and tell me, that's fantastic. If you feel more comfortable writing something in the chat, but in terms of my ability to constantly improve this session and this workshop, I would really value your feedback in terms of what from today is going to stick with you as something that's valuable. And also, if you would love to talk more about this stuff, I am always available. I have my Friday mornings open for virtual coffees, and I love to chat about this stuff. Please connect with me on LinkedIn, and you'll find a Calendly link if you'd love to book a coffee, and we can have a chat more about this stuff. And so I have nothing left to say, but thank you for coming. I look forward to reading your feedback. Thank you for being here. I'll stick here around for another 10, 15 minutes if there are any questions, if there's anything you'd like to say further. But other than that, until next time, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. As Matthew mentioned, if you have any questions, feel free to unmute yourselves or drop it in the chat. I would also encourage you to leave us a feedback after the session on Luma. And I also dropped the link for the next immersive series. And I think, yeah, that's it. Thank you, everyone. Nice.
Thank
A
you,
lot of
Magda.
thank yous in the chat. Yeah, me too. Really nice. Nice. All right. All right, everyone. Have a lovely evening, morning, night. Because we've been on like a globally spread audience today. Nice. Okay. Bye-bye.